The United States of America contains some absolutely amazing, fascinating states, and a lot of really boring ones. But thankfully, they all have something that's interesting about them. Whether that's a funny law, high-calorie state meal, or headless chickens. Yes, a live chicken with no head, but you'll see that in a little bit. We have compiled this list without even going through a cross-country trip. In fact, it was written in a more or less half-baked scheme to get you to learn something. But we did make sure to find a variety of different fun facts by doing a lot of hard and tireless research through easily researched information we got from Google, just so you can sound mildly interesting at parties. Alabama. Nowadays, Mardi Gras is associated with New Orleans and Louisiana, but the tradition actually got started by the French settlers in the city of Mobile in what is now Alabama, but used to be Louisiana. We knew getting drunk in a costume on the streets had to be a complex history. Alaska. When Alaska was purchased from Russia in 1867 for more than $7 million, the decision was seen as laughable, but within decades, gold was eventually discovered and made the new territory one of the most valuable states in America. Arizona. Believe it or not, Arizona actually makes enough cotton every single year to be able to make 2 t-shirts for every American, meaning 599 million shirts a year. So, where the hell's my t-shirt? Arkansas. Arkansas is the only state where people can look for diamonds in their original volcanic source at Arkansas Crater of Diamond State Park, and they're allowed to keep whatever they find. Pretty desperate way to get your girlfriend an engagement ring when you're broke. California. If California were a country, which some Californians are rooting for, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world, ahead of Russia, India, and Italy. If Los Angeles were a country, it would rank 15th. Colorado. Colorado has as many ghost towns as it does active ones. This is because of the Gold Rush era settlements that were eventually abandoned. There's over 500 ghost towns for 650 inhabited ones. Connecticut. The first phone book was published in New Haven, Connecticut in February 1878, and it contained only 50 names. New Haven is also home to the country's oldest continuing published paper, the Hartford Courant. They probably had no idea people would end up reading everything online. Delaware. Being the state with the most generous laws when it comes to company ownership, Delaware was the model for offshore tax havens like the Cayman Islands. How amazing to think that one of our states was the chief inspiration for tax evasion. Florida. The state known for its absurd and, well, hilarious news headlines is home to the nation's oldest city, St. Augustine, which was founded by the Spanish in 1565. Yep, sorry if you didn't know, a lot of our country used to be Spanish. Georgia. In Gainesville, allegedly the poultry capital of the world, they had passed a law in 1961 making it illegal to eat fried chicken with a fork. I didn't even think we needed that kind of law. I mean, seriously, who the hell eats fried chicken with a fork? Hawaii. If you factor in heights below sea level, Hawaii's Mauna Kea mountain is the tallest in the world, with a height of 33,500 feet, including the 19,700 feet below the sea level. Idaho. Being fond of potatoes and all, Idaho has a museum dedicated to potatoes and even celebrates New Year every year by dropping a 16-foot tall potato, which is made of steel and foam on the state capitol. I wonder how they feel about their state being known only for potatoes. Illinois. In the early 1900s, Illinois reversed the Chicago River due to the fact that waste was being dumped into it, and now it's the only river in the world that flows backwards. Indiana. In 1856, the town of Santa Fe had to change its name because there was already another Santa Fe in Indiana, so they changed it to Santa Claus. Volunteers personally answer over 20,000 letters every year, which are addressed to Santa. Imagine if you're a kid finding out that the person who wrote back to you is actually some idiot who spends his free time writing to kids. Iowa. The Guinness Book of World Records called San Francisco Lombard Street the most crooked street in the world. But according to Ripley's Believe It or Not, that title goes to Burlington Snake Alley in Iowa. It's only called Snake Alley due to the fact that the paved road looks like snake scales, and unfortunately not because it's full of snakes. Sorry to disappoint, I know, I thought it sounded super fun too. Kansas. Kansas was scientifically proven to actually be flatter than pancake. Although, personally, we think Florida is a lot flatter, but hey, that's just us. To make sure that you understand this, there are actually scientists who try to compare the flatness of a pancake to the flatness of a state. Isn't America great? Kentucky. At Fort Knox, underground vaults hold one of the largest stockpiles of gold in the entire country, but not many people have seen that stash, and some even question whether the $6 billion worth of gold actually exists. Louisiana. As a reminder, Louisiana did used to belong to France before it was sold off to the United States in 1803. Not saying that you didn't know that, and not calling you an uncultured swine or anything, I'm just reminding you for context. And that explains why it's called Louisiana, as it was named after French King Louis XIV. Maine. Maine is the home of the first official female presidential candidate, Margaret Chase Smith, who was nominated in 1964 at the Republican National Convention. That's actually not a very long time ago at all when you really think about it. It should, however, be noted that earlier women attempted to run but were left off ballots. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and assume it because of sexism, but hey look, this is not a gender equality channel, so take that somewhere else. Maryland. As measured by median household income, Maryland is actually the wealthiest state in the nation. Not a super fun fact, just makes them sound like they're showing off. Massachusetts. Other than being one of the hardest states to pronounce, it's also home to the country's first subway system, being established in Boston in 1897. Michigan. Isle Royale National Park is the least visited of the national parks, with only 17,000 visitors every single year, which is about what Yosemite gets in a day. Minnesota. They call themselves the land of 10,000 lakes, but they actually have less lakes than Wisconsin and way less than Alaska. It's a pretty sad way of bringing in tourists, honestly. I mean, seriously, Alaska's got 3 million lakes. Why would Minnesota even brag about a sad and meager 10,000? Although, to be fair, they do have 11,000, so at least it's close enough. Mississippi. Attention all Christians. Out of all 50 states, Mississippi has the most churches per capita, and not only that, Mississippians actually go to church more frequently than any other individual state. Missouri. The state was named after a tribe of Sioux Indians called the Missouria, which means he of the big canoe. And yet, I bet most people there can't even navigate with a canoe at all. Montana. Montana is the only state in the United States with a triple divide, which means that the waters flow to the Hudson Bay in Canada, Atlantic Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean. Nebraska. This is where about 80% of the world's sandhill crane population shows up during the annual spring migration. The sandhill crane is a bird, in case you didn't know that. I'll be honest, I didn't know that one either, so let's just both agree that we apparently didn't pay attention to anything in our biology class. Nevada. From 1951 up until 1992, a swath of land would use for hundreds of nuclear weapons tests. And in fact, there was even what used to be called atomic watch parties throughout the 50s and 60s, where you could literally pay to watch them drop these test bombs, albeit from a safe, and I'm using that term very loosely, distance. New Hampshire. The state's license plate are made by prison inmates. Considering the slogan is live free or die, it's fair to say that's kinda really messed up. New Jersey. New Jersey is the place with the most diners in the world and also happens to be the state with the lowest divorce rate, so maybe bring your wife for pancakes instead of complaining about her? New Mexico. According to state law, idiots don't have the right to vote. They don't give a clear definition of what the term idiots means, but I'm probably going to be one of them. New York. New York State is home to the world's smallest church, which floats in the middle of a pond in the town of Oneida. Probably not how the Lord pictured one of his houses, but a fun tourist attraction nonetheless. North Carolina. The first mini golf game was built in Fayetteville. The source of so much family fun. North Dakota. In 2007, North Dakota obtained the Guinness World Record for the most people making snow angels simultaneously, with 8,962 folks who participated in the town's Capitol lawn. Ohio. Half of all residents who died in office were from Ohio. There's William Henry Harrison, James Garfield, William McKinley, and even Warren G. Harding. Oklahoma. Oklahoma seems to be the only state with an official state meal, which is kind of confusing. It's a mix of fried okra, squash, cornbread, barbecue pork, and 9 other ingredients. Depending upon the portion size, this can go anywhere from up to a couple thousand calories to nearly 3,000. Senator Brian Crane produced a resolution which would repeal the meal, but it didn't pass. Oregon. According to an analysis of consumer phone calls placed to businesses across the country, Oregonians are the country's fastest talkers. Pennsylvania. The state's capital is spelled different on the Liberty Bell and appears with different spellings in the U.S. Constitution, and yet we became a great nation despite starting out without an online spell checker. Rhode Island. Rhode Island hosted the first open golf tournament in 1865. Yeah, we decided to make 4% of this list about golf. So what? Bite me! South Carolina. The official state dance is called the shag. I know, it's the name of the dance, but don't pretend it's not funny. South Dakota. For some reason, one survey ended up finding that South Dakota is the least sleep-deprived state in the country. A good example to follow for those of you watching this video in the middle of the night. Take care of yourselves, damn it. But first, just please finish watching this and then click subscribe. Tennessee. The longest continuous running live radio program in the world has been broadcast every weekend in Nashville since 1925. Texas. The famous phrase, "Don't mess with Texas," originated in 1985 as a slogan for a campaign against littering, and now even appears on the crest of the USS Texas submarine. Utah. The Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry contains the biggest concentration of Jurassic-era remains that have ever been found. Since 1920, they've excavated over 12,000 dinosaur bones. Pfft, nerds. Vermont. We covered a state that has its very own meal with several other states that have their own official food, but Vermont has its very own state flavor, maple. Virginia. According to Wallet Hub surveys, Virginia ranks #1 in patriotism based on factors like military and civic engagement. Maybe it's got something to do with the fact that, it's where the CIA headquarters is located? Washington. This is where one of the world's largest buildings by volume is located. In Everett, Boeing's final assembly factory spans over 472 million cubic feet, which means that it holds 75 football fields. It wouldn't though, it's used for planes, not sports. West Virginia. The first brick street in the world was laid in Charleston on Summer Street. Yeah, a fact about bricks. West Virginia is not getting any love on this channel. Wisconsin. Wisconsin is where you're going to find a world of accordions, which is a museum with more than 1,000 types of accordions. Also pretty cool, their state dance is the polka, and apparently it's the cheese state or something. Sounds like a pretty weird state, but I'm mostly really sad about one of their state slogans, which is "Stay just a little bit longer." I'm sorry, Wisconsin, but I gotta go. Wyoming. This is the state with the least amount of escalators, which it only has 2, believe it or not. Yep, 2 sets of escalators in the entire state, and both are located in the banks in the city of Casper. While there's 50 states in the United States, a lot of them actually suck, so click this video here to see if your state is among the 10 best in the US.